This is Lori Sebastian, and it is a very nice Monday morning here in New York. And before I got into my regular day, I wanted to put out a little bit of a video here to let you guys see what the enhancements are to our Botta-Bing um, chatbot project has been. So, one of the things I want to point out, because I feel like this is an odd tangent that I've gone off on with the software, is my company actually makes bots. We make computerized robots and we make SpyBots and also these open form factor robots. An open form factor robot is essentially a rolling chassis, everything working, all of the controls are there, and you can bring your own computer. You can add an Android device to it to run your software as you have developed it. So these are open form factor, and these are SpyBots. I know they look really cute. Um, I half cringe when people call them toys because they are cute on purpose, but they're not toys. They're commercially created devices intended for all-day use. And for this Botta-Bing project, we've been really focusing on these two types. They are um, computer-enabled rovers. So they have computers on board, and as a way to sort of show or depict what you can do with a computer on board. For those of you that know, this is information that you don't need, but when I'm doing my demonstrations out in the live world, I needed to have a piece of software that was running on these computers that actually interacted with the group that I was working with. So that's where the Botta-Bing project came from. So I am a software developer by trade, and so I created this software to run on those bots so that I could actually have a live demonstration and promotion. In the process of creating the software, I sort of fell into a black hole of loving interacting with them, how they were sort of brought to life, and I wanted to put the project out there for the rest of the world to enjoy because you don't need a rover to run this software. But if you have a rover, one of these in particular, life is so much better. It's so much more fun. So in the demonstrations that you see on this channel, you're going to see that it's actually, particularly this one, that's doing all of the work and is my demonstration device. I love Hokusai, and I will always love Hokusai. So that's sort of what's going on here. So this is it. This is my Etsy store, and please feel free to take a look around and see what you like. And for a robot, this is no money at all. Okay, I know a lot of you are like, oh my God, they're so expensive. No, they're not. It's a robot. It's not a toy. So anyway, have your fun with that. But the purpose of this video was to clarify that piece, but also talk about some of the enhancements that were made to this project over the last few days in particular. So one of the interesting parts of this project when I was doing the first videos were it had to do with here's all the setup information, here are all the commands, and they have been updated with the newer commands like let's see, where is it? Play promo, play a podcast, meditation music. Here they are. I knew they were right here in the middle. So right here, these are particularly the new enhancements. Plus, some of the other features were tightened up and made a bit more bulletproof um, for the public. The information for installing this on a Mac has changed because there's new packages that are needed now, and I'll explain that. The Vagrant boxes already have their files updated for those new packages, and also the API section has some notes here, which has to do with this Google Developer or Google Cloud API, which is that you may not need it, but also if you're using it, um, you have to make sure that you enable cloud text to speech through your API. So let me go through this one first because this one's one of the most interesting parts. So this project takes your spoken word and then it transcribes it into text, in which the system then reads the text and then is able to carry out your commands. And so one of the setup steps that we have to do is establish a Google Cloud presence. So you have to log into Google Cloud. You have to set up an API key, and then I left this out of a previous video. You have to make sure that you enable your this where is it? Sorry, this one, Cloud Text to Speech API. So when you're here, I have so much going on. My computer is like, oh my god, I'm going to take a long time to load. But so you have to go in through your Cloud API, search for Google Cloud text to speech, and enable that API for your account to actually start working. I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, let's see. I think our interrupter has to do with this thing. But we'll get back to that in a second. I should probably turn off that thing. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to turn off this thing, which is an ad blocker. So let me turn that off. So here's our Google Cloud API console. So console cloud google.com. So this is where you would go to sort of set up your API keys. I did for this project, the API key that I set up is called transcription. This is not the whole API key, so I'm not worried about filming this or anything like this. But you essentially set up a project and create an API key for it. And then the second part of enabling the transcription part of the project is to go here into the Enable APIs part of your Google Cloud, and you want to search for, we're doing speech to text. Oops. Hopefully it doesn't care about my typo, but it might. Let's see. Yes, this is what we're looking for, Cloud Speech to Text API. Now I've already enabled this. If I didn't enable this, my Google API key wouldn't work, and the transcription part of this Botta-Bing project, in which it takes my voice and converts it to text, would not work. But you see it says manage for me. For some of you that would be setting this up, it won't say manage until you actually enable it. So this is a part that was left out. So this is a setup part of the Google Cloud API. Along with, once you do that, you then have to, and you have the software installed, you then have to run gcloud init. Let's make this bigger. Gcloud init, and then that will start the process of you enabling the Google SDK, which is a software that's local. It will allow you to, I've already done this, that's why it's saying that. So, but it will allow you to connect your local SDK with your API and this enabled cloud text to speech. Okay, so that's the part of Google. So when I was doing the first videos, this seems a little complicated, and it also is a little bit expensive. I haven't incurred any costs with this so far, but if you run a lot of API calls, you're going to get charged. So, and a lot would be in the thousands. But in this case, we're good. We're not going to necessarily incur any costs, but I still wanted to provide a backup method in which, while we're doing our development or in the initial stages of testing, that we could just avoid the whole thing. This, in case you cannot get this working, or some of the information that I've given on enabling this morphs, and you're stuck, there's still a way around it, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So OpenAI, which is also ChatGPT's parent company, has put out a project called Whisper. It is also a transcription software. It transcribes speech to text, but it doesn't use an API. It does it all local. So when I said that there's some extra packages that are required, if you have this already installed or looked at this previously, that these extra packages have to do with enabling Whisper. So with Whisper, it will do the conversion of speech to text, and you will not incur any cost. It is OpenAI's um, product, and it's fairly new. I can't really find much information on this before September of last year, so this is a really new process that they've put out, Python based, and they give lots of information on installing Whisper in case you run into a circumstance in which it doesn't work for you. But I did run into several circumstances in which this didn't work for me, so the information on my wiki will get it to work for you. Um, and if you're using the Vagrant version, those packages are already there. They've been tested. All you have to do is download. Oops, I'm already at the bottom. Download the software from the Git repo and follow the instructions, whether it's you're installing it on a Mac or a Windows machine. So that's that. The thing with why, well, if you have Whisper, then why would you still have Google Cloud's speech to text? Whisper is not as fast as Google Cloud's speech to text. It is a great way to test. It definitely works well, but it's not as fast. No matter which computer I tested it on, whether it had 16 gigs of memory and 9,000 cores, or um, the smaller machines, still Whisper did not perform as well as Google's version. So let me talk about that. So I didn't disable Google's version. So I guess it's better to go to Visual Studio Code. So here in the repo, there's a params file, which are the parameters, environment variables that actually have the Botta-Bing software run. So if I go here, I have the same thing on my local machine. Here is the params file, and I want to point out here, right here in this transcribe section, which I love making things look worse. Let me see if I can get this bigger. Most of the time my zooms work, but here we go. All right, so here we go. Let's close this. So if we look here in the transcribe section, this wasn't there before. So this is one of the new things that were added. So by default, it's asking for Google API. It wants to default to Google API for better user experience. And also, I've given lots of instructions in this video and in other videos on how to actually enable this. So if you have this set up, use it. However, if you want to use Whisper instead, all you have to do is enable Whisper and run the software. Make sure you have the packages installed, but that's really the only thing you have to do to get Whisper to run. Now, Whisper will be your transcriber, and it will work perfectly, but it may run slower for some. Most, in fact. Okay, so since we're in this file, let's look at some other things that were added. So, owner name. This is one of my favorite parts. I happen to like that my bot calls me by my name. So I added this feature to the top of the file. Please go through in all of these parameters, with the exception of this last one, which I'll get to in a second. Make this, into your own time zone, your own zip code. Zip code is needed for the weather and local weather. And, you know, leave language is English right now. I haven't really tested this if it's not. But just and country is US. So that would be it. Now these last two, news frequency. News frequency has is a news the news feature was already there, but news frequency is different in the sense that you can control how often she pops up and reads a news story. So the way this works is um, this number, she will read the news 1 out of 20 times. So, which is not frequent. It will, if you don't have this parameter, it will default to 1 out of 10. So you can talk to it 10 times. Somewhere in there, it's going to read the news. So if you find that it's too frequent, make sure that you change this value to something that works better for you. Now, this other one, sound and CPU calibration. I've only needed this for my fanless or small form factor computers, but when you install Vagrant on them and run VirtualBox, they don't seem to come online. Even though the software runs, the sound doesn't seem to equalize for some time, maybe a couple of minutes. And then she starts speaking smoothly and playing music smoothly. So the sound and CPU calibration step, it defaults to false, so it assumes you don't need it. But if you do need it, because you're noticing that she's talking glitchy in the beginning and all of this kind of stuff, perhaps you want to change this to true, and it will go through a calibration step and make sure that her speech catches up by the time the actual software starts running. So that's what that is. Um, let's see. Okay, so that was the major enhancements of this new version of the software. And let's see what else we have going on here to explain. So all of the commands are in the cheat sheet. They're in the install instructions, and they're also, the new commands are listed here in the here are some commands just say section. But I also wanted to talk about how to get this to run smoothly on your, if you're using Vagrant and VirtualBox.